On the night of August the 15th, the defense forces attacked a building in Yenakiyevo, Donetsk Oblast, where Russian occupiers were based, including their command post. The Ukrainian side could have used a domestic FP-1 drone to carry out the attack. This is the opinion expressed by analysts of Defense Express. The powerful informant, analyst, is confident that the FP-1 was used for the attack, since, according to him, he saw a photo of the remains of one of the drones. FP-1 is working, he wrote. The General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine confirmed the successful destruction of the location of the 132nd Separate Motorized Rifle Brigade of the Russian Armed Forces, but did not explain what type of weapon reached the target. A command post of the 132nd Separate Motorized Rifle Brigade of the 51st Army of the Russian Armed Forces in the city of Yenakiyevo, which is in the temporarily occupied territory of Donetsk Oblast, was hit with fire. The target was hit. The results of the hit are being clarified, the statement said. The FP-1 kamikaze strike drone was presented in Ukraine in May 2025 for Infantry Day. It is designed to destroy the enemy at strategic depth and is capable of carrying a warhead weighing up to 120 kilograms and covering a distance of up to 1,600 kilometers. As reported by military, FP-1 is already being produced in large quantities and is of interest to Ukraine's partner countries. The FP-1 drone first appeared in 2024. Even then, it was used to attack Russian regions. In particular, the FP-1 was used to attack Krasnozavodsk chemical plant, KCP, 70 kilometers from Moscow, and the instrument-making plant in Arzamas, Nizhny Novgorod region. As for the control center itself, its destruction could bring some chaos to the enemy's plans for some time. However, without confirmation of casualties, it is too early to assess the scale of the impact, analysts at Defense Express say. Let us recall that recently in Russia, they showed how Ukrainian drones are shot down with the help of laser weapons. In particular, they showed how the FP-1 UAV is shot down. FP-1 drones have been used to strike Russia since at least 2024. In particular, they attacked the Marinovka airbase in August 2024, destroying at least one Su-34 fighter bomber and damaging several others. Recently, Russian forces conducted a massive push to cut off Ukrainian supply lines to Pokrovsk and starve out the defenders. However, Russians quickly got stuck in fortifications that guard the back of the Ukrainian defense line, with intense close-quarters battles breaking out, Euromaidan press media outlets said. In the latest adjustment of their summer offensive, Russian forces are now concentrating their efforts on encircling Pokrovsk from the east. Despite being initially promising, the failed encirclement efforts from the west and unsuccessful infiltration attempts from the south were both successfully pushed back by Ukrainian defenders. Ukrainians improved their tactical standing, stalling further enemy momentum, which changed Russia's strategy toward targeting logistics on the western flank. However, the same cannot be said for the eastern flank. After making headway there, Russian forces rapidly shifted their focus to this sector, capitalizing on their momentum to push deeper and reach the strategically vital settlement of Radinsk. Euromaidan press says their objective is now clear: cut supply lines, threaten Pokrovsk and Mirnohrad from behind, and force the Ukrainian defense into a semi-encircled position. Radinsk has emerged as a focal point in Russia's operational plan due to its position directly behind Pokrovsk and Mirnohrad, which allows it to serve as a logistical and tactical keystone for both towns. Capturing it would open a dangerous axis of advance from the rear, collapsing supply routes and placing additional pressure on Ukrainian units holding the line. For now, however, the main Russian effort remains squarely focused on breaking Ukrainian resistance in Radinsk. The fierce battle for the settlement has already begun, with high-intensity engagements playing out on its eastern approaches. Overall, Pokrovsk remains the hottest section of the front line and the focal point of Russia's summer campaign. The Russians are determined to establish a foothold in the paved neighborhoods before the fall rains make any approach on soft ground impossible, and their pivot to the east has already yielded dangerous momentum. Yet this shift is now being met with fierce Ukrainian resistance centered on Rodinsk, quickly growing to be of extreme importance. Euromaidan Press says its defense is about protecting the entire Pokrovsk-Mirnohrad sector from collapse. As if Rodinsk falls, the door to encirclement opens. For now, however, Ukrainian forces are holding, fighting from house to house and striking back with every tool available. The battle is far from over, but the outcome in Rodinsk may well decide the fate of Pokrovsk. The situation in the 108th Airborne Assault Regiment of the Russian Occupation Army, which is located in the temporarily occupied part of the Zaporizhia region, has become extremely tense due to senseless orders from the command. This was reported on the Telegram channel by the Ukrainian partisan movement Atesh. According to Atesh, the command of the Russian occupation forces gave the 108th Airborne Assault Regiment the order to seize the village of Pavlovka in the Zaporizhia region at any cost. So the Russian occupiers are attacking almost around the clock, regardless of the very large losses. It has reached the point that rear echelon personnel and unwanted officers are being transferred to the assault units. The Russian occupiers are attacking without support from neighboring units, without artillery support or effective electronic warfare. Because of all this, a critical situation has developed in the 108th Airborne Assault Regiment of the Russian Occupation Army. The situation there is tense to the limit. Soldiers of this regiment are increasingly leaving their combat positions without permission. There have been cases of suicide. Earlier, it became known that in the 247th Airborne Assault Regiment of the Russian Occupation Army in Zaporizhia, there is a large number of cases of desertion. According to Atesh, some forcibly mobilized Ukrainians from the temporarily occupied Crimea, as well as from the temporarily occupied areas of the Zaporizhia and Kherson regions, serve in the 247th Airborne Assault Regiment of the Occupation Army of the Russian Federation. They do not want to fight against their country, against Ukraine. That is why they are fleeing the occupation Russian army. The Atesh movement also reported that servicemen of the Russian Occupation Army often end up on the lists of deserters because their documents disappear after being sent to the hospital. In this case, the officers' occupiers usually immediately talk about unauthorized abandonment of the unit. Doctors of the Russian Occupation Army do not specify where the serviceman is. Atesh called on Ukrainians who were forcibly taken into the Russian Occupation Army to evade service and go over to the side of the Ukrainian partisans. It should be noted that not only desertion, but also various falsifications of other violations are thriving in the Russian Occupation Army. Thus, recently, the Russian Defense Ministry announced the alleged capture of the city of Chasov Yar in the Donetsk region. The Ukrainian armed forces immediately denied this statement by the enemy. According to Ukrainian military observer Denis Popovich, the occupiers often declare the alleged capture of this or that settlement in Ukraine, although this is not actually the case. They do this for the sake of awards.